Greetings fellow Whovians and welcome to Timey Wimey Review. With the summer 2024 Olympic Games coming to a close, I thought I'd review a Doctor Who episode which has a loose tie-in to the Olympic Games, but also an episode which is in a state of flux at the time of recording, particularly on BBC Iplayer, where it looks like the average Whovians binge watch of series 2, where they skip this particular episode to go into the series finale. I am of course talking about the episode Fear Her, an episode which is not very well received in the Whoviverse and tops quite a lot of polls of the worst episode of Doctor Who. I've got to admit I've only probably watched this episode 4 times at a push. But I've got to ask the question, is it really as bad as everyone makes it out to be? I'll certainly address the elephant in the room surrounding this episode at the time of recording, but please hit the subscribe button, that will really help out this channel. This is my review of Fear Her, originally broadcast on BBC One in June 2006. Now, just in case you don't know the plot, the 10th Doctor and Rose arrive in a London suburb, which is going to be part of the route of the Olympic torch that'll be making its way through to the part of the big Olympic ceremony for London 2012. Now, it wouldn't be Doctor Who if there wasn't some kind of weird, scary mystery, and there is one to be found here, as children seem to be disappearing from this London typically quiet street, and it all revolves around a girl that's just been doing all these strange drawings and making people disappear. What is the connection? Fun fact, this episode was written by Matthew Graham, who had to step in really at the last minute to have his story commissioned, because this was originally going to be an episode written by Stephen Fry, not particularly Fear Her as such, but a Doctor Who episode written by Stephen Fry, who sadly had to pull out. So Matthew's story got commissioned, and probably from script to screen, from what I saw, it's definitely not had the full treatment of a polished story. So let's address the elephant in the room and explain the reason why it is currently not on BBC Iplayer. And the reason for this is because we had commentary in this episode from newsreader, or disgraced newsreader, Hugh Edwards, who is facing quite a lot of criminal charges at the time. So the BBC have removed this episode from BBC Iplayer and are looking to replace that for a new voiceover and then putting it back onto the Iplayer. Now, I understand why the BBC have done this, but there's sort of two sort of things that I will sort of talk about. I won't go into the full sort of depths of the right and wrong of this. That's something that, by all means, let's have a conversation in the comments. Obviously, let's all be kind with our opinions, but I feel like really it can't have been that expensive. It can't be that expensive to put another person's voice in this commentary slot that we had throughout this episode. I think it probably would have been better in hindsight of having an actual voice actor doing this, because Hugh's commentary was a bit flat, particularly the scene where all the Olympic crowd have disappeared and it was just really bad fumbling. Oh no, what has happened? Why has everyone gone? What am I going to hello, I don't know what I'm doing. It just didn't quite do it for me. So yeah, I would definitely do a voiceover for that and make that a lot more polished. But if we can't do that right now, why don't we just slap a disclaimer on the screen of, like, look, we know who's in it, we're not condoning any of his actions, but this is, you know, view at your own discretion. But there we go, because you got that argument, haven't you, of yes, it's the right thing to do, but at the same time it's also taking probably money and royalties away, and the sort of hard work from all the cast and crew and writers and cameramen and all the production team that have, you know, worked hard to give us this episode. So again, I won't go into that in full detail. I get that's something we can discuss in the comments if you wish, but that's my short thoughts of this controversy. What I would like to say about this episode is this is the 10th Doctor's and Rose relationship at its best. It's probably one of the peak ones from series 2. The two of them together you can tell that they have this bonding relationship, this friendship, and you can tell, particularly Rose, that she has learnt a lot from travelling with the Doctor. She's been, she had the inquisitiveness when we first saw her back in 2005, and she has definitely grown up and sort of making all these sort of suggestions, and has definitely learnt with the Doctor. Particularly talking with all the neighbours in the streets of why this is happening, particularly sort of the theme with Chloe and her mum. Obviously there was the scene where they're talking about how her father, before he died, was abusive. There were, her daughter Chloe and her mum was in an abusive relationship with her father, so it was something that was kind of touched upon, and the Doctor sort of chiming in with that. And yeah, they really just, David Tennant and Billie Piper really bounced off each other in this episode. This was a great thing to see, and personally probably the highlights of this particular episode. Just wish this story did focus a lot more about that trauma that Chloe and her mum has been through. It was kind of, it's like talked about, but yeah, you don't need to see the physical sort of side of it, of course, but I don't know, it just felt a little bit glossed over in this episode. I feel like in hindsight, if they was going to do this episode again, I think this is something should have been the more sort of crux point of this. It was a subplot to a certain extent, with the main plot being this this alien that is this alien child that's communicating with Chloe, and obviously dealing with their own sort of traumas as well, and having that bond, but obviously the bond that cannot last. And I get that, and again, it would have been great to have the perspective of sort of like a human element and a alien type of element of this sense of loss and trauma. That's really what this episode really should have focused on, and it just kind of, I felt like it just got glossed over for a sense of a hero and a villain. It just didn't quite do it for me. I understand probably they were going for the approach of, we've got the series 2 finales, and that's going to be quite heavy and dramatic, so let's have a nice sort of more breather moment, particularly with it being not so long after the Satan's Pit as well, which had a two episode sort of heavy drama as well, so we wanted just a bit of a breather before we go on to Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. But really, I don't think that was the right approach. The direction and camera work for most parts of this story, of this episode, was quite good. It was directed by Euros Lyn, who has done quite a lot of episodes for Doctor Who and quite a lot for Series 2, to be fair. There was just a couple of nitpicks for this episode for me. One was the wobbly cam. I'm just not a fan of wobbly cam, and when it sticks out like a sore thumb, it just drives me mad. In some settings I could totally accept, and it probably can add to the drama or whatever sort of scene that they're going for, of realism they're going for, but when it's just unnecessary, it just does my head in. The other thing that kind of was a bit of a bugbear for me, and again that's probably more due to budget and time, was this episode was filmed in the winter, and obviously it was supposed to be set in the summer. Now they did put a clever line here to say that, oh, the street is very cold, unusually cold, and obviously that is sort of like a sense of an alien presence. Very clever, brilliant. But could they really not had to have the shots of all the trees with no leaves at all, clearly making it look like, yeah, it's just winter? Surely they could have just edited it, or at least made the camera work away from that, just show shots of the streets, and maybe just have more in interior scenes or anything like that, because it just, yeah, again, just took me away from it. I appreciate where they were coming from, but it was clearly an episode that was shot in winter, even though it was meant to be in the summer. Fear Her is a mixed bag of an episode. That I just feel like there was something there. I don't think it is the worst episode. Is it the worst third episode from or third to last episode in the Russell T Davies era? Absolutely. You know, you compare this to Boomtown, Utopia and Turn Left. Yeah, this is just nowhere near the quality of those 3 episodes that I just mentioned. Is it the worst episode? No. Could it have been better? Yes, absolutely. I just feel like I felt like they had something there in this story, but it just didn't. I don't think it just had the time and the proper treatment to really elevate this story. I think in hindsight, this is something that they could easily do again, and particularly in an era of Doctor Who where we just had season 1 of Doctor Who and there weren't that many new writers in that season. There was quite a lot of the old guard, you know, and we are screaming out for new writers. You know, we had something here, but I think it just got a bit wasted or a bit lost in the shuffle with all the other episodes that they were trying to do. Another thing I would think might have been more beneficial for this episode when it first came out is I would swap it in the running order, and I would put it in for School Reunion, which was the 3rd episode of series 2. I would put Fear Her in that slot, and it just basically would show a bit more of the bonding between the 10th Doctor and Rose, which we got in Fear Her, which is, like I said earlier in this review, it's the highlight of this episode for me. And they could easily write this that sort of fear of loss from the Doctor leading into the series 2 finale in School Reunion, and then you kind of got that breather episode in the form of School Reunion, which they were looking for between the Impossible Planet and Satan's Pit, and of course the lead up to the series 2 finale, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. Obviously, we would have had the return of Sarah Jane Smith and K9, and all the Whovians will probably, and all the mainstream fans will be like, "Ooh, I'm quite curious about this episode, looking forward to that." And then, you know, you would be really shooting up on a high from there. Yeah, I do think the episode run would have, I think it did affect it even more so for Fear Her. So in conclusion, I'm going to give Fear Her a TARDIS rating of 5.5 out of 10. I feel like we had something here, my fellow Whovians, but it kind of just got wasted on, probably due to lack of time and money. Like I said, it is a bit of a mixed bag of an episode. I do think there is some good elements in there. I think it just got lost in the shuffle with all the bad elements and a few sort of dodgy CGI shots. Obviously, again, it didn't have that much CGI ones, but when it did, oh boy, it was bad. I tell you what, I did like the animation effect right at the beginning of the cold opening into the Doctor Who theme, where we did have that animation drawing. I thought that looked really good. It was obviously they used it in the Next Time promo treatment. And yeah, I thought it was a really good effect. Like I said, I think we had something here, and for whatever reason, it kind of got a little bit squandered. I did have to smile when the 10th Doctor lifted up the Olympic torch and ran with it all the way to the stadium to light the beacon to start the games. It was super cheesy, but it did make me smile. I'm surprised I didn't try to do that in real life as part of the London opening ceremony for the 2012 games. But also, I also have to appreciate that obviously all the controversy that's happening, and with this episode being removed on BBC Iplayer, it did give me a chance to dig out this DVD set and have a little bit of nostalgia with the actual opening, the DVD menu and everything. Really did take me back. I can't believe it's been nearly 18 years, 19 years since this episode was broadcast. So let me know in the comments below your thoughts to Fear Her. Is it one of your worst episodes of Doctor Who, or do you agree with me? Maybe it wasn't so bad. Would you give this episode another go? Again, let me know in the comments. I would love to know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please like, share and subscribe. Hit the cloister bell for more notifications. Come say hello and follow me on Facebook and X. And do check out my other fantastic Doctor Who related content on the Timey Wimey Review TikTok page. And of course right here on the Timey Wimey Review YouTube channel. And as a good doctor once said, which is quite apt at the time of recording, there's a storm coming.